So as you entered into this world, were you aware that you needed all these signatures? How did you go about getting
No,
them?
I had no idea. So one of my guides on my first trip, before we went into the cobalt, into the mining areas, you landed into a town called Lubumbashi, which is the head of a province called Haut-Katanga province, old colonial town. Now it's the mining capital in the southeastern part of the country. So that's where, there's some government buildings. And as I talked through my plan, what I wanted to try to achieve, what I wanted to try to see, my very first guide said, okay, we need to go and you have to explain this to someone in the governor's office and hope that they'll give you their signature and stamp on, it's called engagement de prise en charge, commitment to protect, documentation. He said, just go and make the case and try to get that stamp and signature because we'll need that. We may need that. If you want to go into these places, that will save your life. And he was right. On that very first trip, I was in a mining area north of a town called Congo. Kids everywhere. We had done our sort of recon that it was clear of militias that day. There was always planning when I went into these areas, pre-planning. To minimize risk. And I was talking to some kids. There was two girls. They're probably 14 and 15, and they each had babies on their backs as they were in this trench digging cobalt. And I was walking down the trench to a group of boys. This one boy has a T-shirt that said AIG. And I thought to myself, first of all, that there's an AIG T-shirt out here, blew my mind. And I remembered that was one of the big financial companies that had to be bailed out in the 2008 financial crisis, $150 billion or something. And I thought, man, that kind of money here, what a difference it could make. Anyway, so I was talking to those kids, and suddenly there was gunshots. And they knew what was happening. They all jumped into a trench. And I turned around, it's me and my guide, and there's a pack of guys with Kalashnikovs, machetes, running at us. And these militias operate in little units. There'll be a guy, the head of the group, and then there's maybe, 10, 15 guys. They call them militia, they call them commandos, various names. So they started coming at us and immediately started roughing me up, grabbed my backpack, threw my stuff on the ground, started kicking us around, demanded to see my phone to see if I were taking photos. Like, they know that there are people who are trying to figure out what's the truth around here. And I looked at my guide, the blood drained from his face, and he very quietly and calmly told them, he has a signature. And my stuff was all on the dirt at that point. I found the folder that had that precious piece of paper under the boot of one of these guys. I pulled it out, showed it to the commandos leader. That kind of calmed them down enough that they let us, walk out of there. But it would have gone the other way. But my guide knew, that's what I mean. It's about those ground relationships. People know their world. I can't go in presuming to know that world, how to navigate it, how to be safe, how not to cause harm inadvertently. I mean, all these things go through a researcher's mind. But he knew that we might need that, and it turns out on that day, man, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation, I think, if I hadn't followed his advice.
How did you get the confidence of these people to let you do this? And are there people there that are sympathetic to what you're doing because they want the truth to come out?
You said it. There's not much civil society in the Congo, but there is a small civil society there. Local activists, little NGOs. They have to be very careful in how they operate. So they don't get on the wrong side of the wrong officials, especially the mining sector. Mining is everything to Congo. 70, 80% of the government's budget is coming from mining.